All right, so we're driving home from the Documentary Edge Film Festival.
Because Mr. Doug Dillaman has a short film in this year's DocEdge Film Festival. His short is called You Could Have Seen the Mona Lisa.
And did we go see it? No, because it's only screening online. But I did get an invitation to the opening, which was very lovely. And the film we did see is called...
I don't know, 7 Years of Lucas Graham.
Yes, and so that's a documentary about a band that I had never heard of, but
Neither had
apparently the entire world has heard his number one song, 7 Years. And
so they're a band of young men from Denmark, and the filmmaker, whose name is Renee Sasha Johansson, basically followed the band from relative obscurity in Denmark, right, when they were still just playing clubs in Denmark.
Well, in fact, he said during the Q&A his first filming experience, we're still working out the details on the tech side here, was a showcase in New York, that while he was living in New York, and the Danish mafia or whatever connected him to shoot this band from Denmark who'd come over to America for 2 whole gigs, the pinnacle of their career.
This is 2013. So he has the foresight to pick up a camera and then agree with the lead of the band, whose name is Lucas Forkhammer, to agree with Lucas that he's going to track Lucas and the band for however long. And so that he does 7 years shooting with these guys and then rounds it out at the end of 2019, I guess 2020, with this film, The 7 Years of Lucas Graham.
Yeah, and obviously it's shot very speculatively because nobody knew at the time that Lucas Graham was going to have a number one all across the world and get nominated for Grammys and all of these things. So you get just really intimate access that you rarely get in this sort of documentary. And there's 2 kinds of music documentaries, the kind where you have to like the musician and the kind you don't. And this is firmly the second kind, I think, both in terms of music and even Lucas as a person to some degree, I'd say.
Although the interesting thing is, I'm a sucker for these kind of films. I'd never heard a note of their music, and I certainly didn't know the fellows involved. And I really liked him. As far as lead musicians in bands go, young people, you know what young people are like? Well, he's fantastic. I think he's fantastic. He really values authenticity. And so even though this charts his journey from, as I say, relative obscurity to relative fame, he's terrific at being able to acknowledge that sometimes he can be a bit of an a-hole or whatever it is,
We're experimenting with lighting, by the way.
We are experimenting, episode 2. But also, I love the music. As soon as we get home and I get on that Wi-Fi, I am downloading the Lucas Graham album.
And that's why God made headphones. But he's an incredibly talented singer, and I do feel
and songwriter.
And I do feel like even if you don't care for the music, you can tell why he's popular. But also, the documentary doesn't rest on that. It's a really honest kind of look at what it's like to be a sensitive, open person who has ambition and is simultaneously has a huge ego and huge ambition, but very little pretension, which is a really interesting
mix
combination.
Really.
And very open. He's struggling with his... this is so much fun. Someday we'll buy a better mount. His ability to interact with his fans who are deeply connected with these personal songs. His father has died in, I think, 2013 or 2014, just as the documentary is kicking off at 61, and he was a huge supporter of Lucas's musical work.
We don't want to spoil it too much about the film.
It's pretty central to the song and everything else, to be
sure.
fair.
But anyway, is the film any good? Because we're nearly home. I would say, heck yeah. For me, it is on a level with Searching for Sugar Man, which is similar to the extent that it was a music documentary that launched a film festival many years ago. I think it doesn't quite have the surprises of Searching for Sugar Man, but I thought it was a thoroughly engrossing film. I loved watching their journey, and I enjoyed the protagonist, and I think that that's really key. And I enjoyed the music, which for me is also really key.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Searching for Sugar Man fan, actually, so to say it's about on the same level is not as big of a compliment, but I'd go are we doing star ratings, or are we going to wait till right when we get in the driveway?
I haven't really thought about my star rating. Give me time.
Okay. Well, I'd go 3.5 stars on it. I don't think it reaches quite that next level of transcendent, but I feel like it's a strong documentary for anybody who's interested in the subject matter, even if they're not interested in the musician himself, and seeing what it's like to cope with the wheels of stardom as they churn, and the mental health toll it can take, and
it's also really
handling
interesting.
trauma. I mean, I guess that's the other thing. It is such about trauma and grief.
Sure, it definitely is. And his empathy with fans who come up to him and say, your song really moved me, I too have experienced grief. His empathy, I thought, was extraordinary for anybody, young person, musician, famous person, whatever. I also think, and Doug alluded to this earlier, that it's very interesting as a film from the perspective of launching a documentary, getting in there, shooting something, and really genuinely not knowing where it's going to go. And I
love that. That's something I really appreciated. It's so rare in this world of overdeveloped documentaries to have something that's truly observational from the beginning, as opposed to retrospectively constructed.
And the filmmaker said in the Q&A just now that he's quite proud of the fact that there's nothing retrospective about the film in terms of his making of the film. And so, yeah, he's basically, he's shot it as it is and tells the story as it is. So I would go 4 stars on the 7 years of Lucas Graham.
Did I say 3.5 stars?
You did, Doug.
Well, then it's time for me to button off. Thank you. This has been Critics in a Car with a very bad camera mount getting home.